The music is so triumphant. Hi, everybody. I'm Leah Hunter. Thanks for being here. We have Alex and Michael from Calm, who are extraordinary beings. And because we're at the creative stage, we're going to start the conversation there. Calm works in the space of meditation, which has been around for thousands of years, since the beginning of time. But clearly, you are not people who wear flowing robes. You operate a different way in the world. What are some ways in which you've brought meditation into the modern era?
Yeah, so hello, everybody. Wonderful to be here. I think one of the reasons Calm has done so well, and we've grown to about 35 million downloads now, is that we have approached meditation and mindfulness from a non-traditional way. In everything from the branding to the way we create stories to the celebrities that we've used. We created a movie called Baba Land, which was 8 hours long, all about sheep grazing in a field. We took GDPR and turned that into a mindful sleep story that people could listen to help them fall asleep at night. We found the teacher in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and got him to record a story for us. So all these non-traditional ways to bring this very valuable and powerful skill to the masses.
An 8-hour movie about sheep.
Yes, it's brilliant.
Did it put people immediately to sleep?
Not immediately, but I don't think anyone's ever watched the whole thing.
I love that. And I heard that you have something called Do Nothing for 2 minutes.
Yes.
That's another creative execution. What is that?
Yeah, so that was a website that actually came before Calm. It was one of the catalysts for creating the company. And it was a very simple idea. It was an invitation for the world to come to a website and do nothing for 2 minutes. It was really a test. And there was a countdown from 2 minutes to 0 that started as soon as you hit the page, had a picture of a sunset and waves playing. And 2 million people visited that website in the first week, went viral on Twitter. But only 50% of the folks who went to the page could do nothing for 2 minutes. And so it was really a sort of testament to this distracted world we live in, and was a precursor to Calm. We actually got our first 100,000 customers for Calm itself through that website. And do nothing for 2 minutes was actually the basis of some of our best performing adverts on Facebook and Instagram for Calm. So I think there's a video we could show of this ad. It's actually a do nothing for 30 or 15 seconds. So if we can play that. Let's take a moment.
Just curious if anyone has seen that advert online.
Oh, wow.
It's an ad that went viral. It was, again, a very simple, creative idea that people just loved. I think it's been seen about 500 million times now.
No, I think it's over 1 billion now.
Billion?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what I'm more curious about is how many people were able to just do nothing for that 15 seconds.
0 hands. Oh.
A few.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's great because it's it comes up in people's feeds. It's an invitation to take a break from sort of mindlessly scrolling. And I think Calm itself as a product is also that. It's an invitation to not be so distracted and stressed out.
Yeah, I love, to that end, I love some of the things I've heard that you do. And I'd like to hear more about them and tell everyone more about them. Specifically, you create bedtime stories for adults. What does that mean? And what's the science behind it, if there is any?
So a couple of years ago, we noticed in the app that there was this huge spike every evening in different time zones around the world, just about 11 p.m., and people were listening to the meditations to help them drift off to sleep at night. And meditation is not designed to help you sleep. So we thought, there must be something in this. So we basically decided to create stories for grown-ups to help them drift off. And we called them sleep stories. And it sounds very simple, but there's quite a bit of thinking that goes on behind the scenes. So we take a very soothing voice, and we create a story that starts in an engaging way. It occupies your mind, so you're listening and you're attentive, so your mind isn't wandering and thinking about other stuff. And then gently, the story gets more and more soporific and soothing. The pauses between the words get longer until you fall asleep. And yeah, they've been a massive, massive hit. And we've had celebrities like Stephen Fry and Joanna Lumley read them. And it's now bigger than the meditation parts of the Calm app.
I like that idea. I'm imagining falling asleep to this soothing voice, and it's lovely. You mentioned that as we were walking over here, and I thought, yeah, that makes sense.
And it's a big market as well. You know, there's 7.6 billion people that go to sleep every night. So as advanced as tech becomes, I think we're still going to need to do that. So we think this is a lovely ritual every evening to help us wind down, rather than watching another Netflix show or scrolling on our phone.
There's another thing built into that. You mentioned Stephen Fry and Joanna Lumley. You use some interesting tactics around engaging creatives. It's sort of like a way of building up the meditation industry using celebrities and their power. Will you speak to that?
Yes. So do you want to take the 50 years ago?
Yeah. So, I mean, the physical fitness boom started in, arguably the 1940s, 50s, when at the time doctors thought that exerting yourself too hard could give you a heart attack, so didn't recommend physical exercise. And then scientific research came out that physical exercise was good for you in lots of different ways, and then crucially celebrities started doing physical exercise. So in the Calm office in San Francisco, we have a framed cover of People magazine from 1977, and it has a couple of celebrities of the time jogging on the front cover, and it says, "Jogging, the new craze, everyone's doing it." And we take it for granted that people go jogging, but at the time people thought, perhaps, what are you running from? Why are you running down the street? It's a bit weird. And the same is kind of true for meditation in the sense that it takes famous people in some ways to help normalize the behavior of sitting still, which again is kind of weird in our always on, constantly moving forward society. So we are big believers in using celebrities where possible, alongside other tactics, to help popularize it.
And so physical fitness, as Alex said, is obviously a huge thing. Everyone gets it now. And we think we're right at the start of a wave that will be just as big around mental fitness. It seems so crazy that people don't treat their minds with the same care and respect they do their bodies. But we're so excited that that's starting to change now. Mental health is stepping out of the shadows into the light. People are talking about it. They're having honest conversations with their friends and their colleagues. And this wave is just getting bigger and bigger. So really, really important shift that's taking place in society.
Well, there are tons of indicators of that. Like, I'm writing a section in my latest book about that, between consciousness hacking and the people who are working in that, people who are using psychedelics as medicine, and the fact that companies like eBay and Google and Salesforce have institutionalized management practice meditation programs. It says that this is way more than just like a minor blip. It's a billion-dollar industry now.
Absolutely. And I think, wellness at work is becoming a big thing, and again, long overdue. I think this is incredibly, incredibly important.
So who right now is leading the charge in terms of meditation-related technology? And what are some of the things? My goal is to have everyone walk out of here knowing things that you wouldn't otherwise know because they have insider knowledge about what's being built, how it's being built, things like that. So who is leading the charge in the industry, and what do you know about building calm technology or meditation-based technology that would be of value to everyone here?
Well, I think the best way to learn meditation, this really valuable skill, is probably with a teacher. But that's expensive and doesn't scale very well. So we felt the next best way was to use the smartphone. and to create content with our incredible teacher, Tamara, and distribute it, hopefully, to the billions of smartphones in the world. So there are many gadgets you can use and strap to your head and wearables and whatnot, but we think the simplest way is this supercomputer you carry with you everywhere and just to press play when you have a few moments. And we encourage people to start with just a mindful breath or two, and then you can work up to longer sessions. But yeah, we think that is the best way to teach this simple, valuable skill.
Alex?
Yeah, in terms of the actual market that we're in, there's two companies really leading the pack. There's Calm, and there's also Headspace, who have also done a tremendous job. And the space in terms of mindfulness and mental fitness and mental health is really, really hotting up. So we're seeing new companies launching every single day. And it's really exciting because it's reflective of a demand in society for products like this. And, there's nothing more important than looking after your own mental health. And I think that's true, especially for entrepreneurs. In doing a startup, one of the hardest, jobs you can have, it can be incredibly taxing and stressful because you have to find investors and product market fit and find employees and things. And so the number one thing to do is to take care of your mind and your body. And with Calm, we use our own product. It helps. It really works. Getting better sleep and meditating and things. So one piece of advice is to not overlook how important it is to take care of not just the body but the mind as an entrepreneur.
And there are probably many entrepreneurs in the audience who are building products in a similar space. Health and wellness in particular has just been booming over the last few years. It's now a $4 trillion industry. And what's exciting is that this wasn't really a thing a few years ago. We found it very difficult to raise investment for Calm as recently as a year ago. We found it hard to get meetings with investors. We got turned down left, right, and center. And now we're going to do over $80 million in revenue this year, 10x from 2 years ago. So there's a huge opportunity here. As you say, a multi-billion-dollar industry. And what's exciting is it's not a winner-takes-all market. There are going to be multiple successful companies. And we're really proud to be part of that new growing space.
Well, that speaks to the fact that there is lots of room for lots of people to play. So hot tip, if you're building right now, you might end up being their competitor. Although I believe in a world that is based on cooperation as opposed to competition. There is room for everyone to succeed and to build.
Exactly.
You spoke to how it took a while to get your investors. And I know, startups are not an overnight success. What helped you get over that hump? Which is to say, what tips do you have for people who are building right now and who are in that space of, oh my God, I'm waiting for this to really take off. I know it's going to. I've already created the vision. I've created the company. It's going to go. I'm just in that space.
Well, one of the ways entrepreneurs win big is by diving into an area that is not popular or the prevailing wisdom of society doesn't really understand. That's where you get your head start, you build up your momentum. So that was definitely true of meditation and mindfulness a few years ago. And then when the societal shift does happen, as it is in the middle of doing, you're in a great position to continue growing and surfing that wave.
Yeah, I think that in the early days of a company, it can be tough to have the persistence and the grit to see it through when investors and other people are telling you, no, it's a bad idea, don't bother. And that was certainly true for Calm. But I think there were two things that helped us get through. One was a deep personal interest in what we were doing. So I'd been meditating, for 10 years before starting Calm. I knew it helped. I knew that other people would want to get into it too. So there was a personal interest. And then there were external signals, even if it wasn't our own traction, which was, is small, if nothing, in the early days. The external signals, there had been a massive increase in the scientific research about mindfulness, an increase in press around mindfulness and meditation, and then just other signals that the world is getting stressful and anxious. And so those two things, the personal interest on our side and then the external signals, bridged that gap when there wasn't immediate traction. and gave us the confidence to ignore the naysayers and continue through for many years, actually. It wasn't an overnight success. So that persistence is key, but I think you have to be deeply interested in what your problem you're trying to solve. And if you can find external signals, they can really help motivate you too.
One thing I really loved that we were talking about backstage that I think would be valuable to people, you're a big reader, and moving into this particular industry and building Calm, you got there by learning about mindfulness and meditation from different places. What are some of your favorite resources?
Yeah, so unlike Alex, I wasn't a regular meditator. If I'm honest, I didn't really understand it. Like a lot of people, I thought it was a bit weird and a bit woo-woo, and it was the science that changed my mind, the neuroscience, the way it rewires your brain rather than the incense or the flowing robes. And it was reading some research papers and also reading a few amazing books. So a few I'd recommend are, one is 10% Happier, about a newsreader that had a nervous breakdown on air, and he went from being a massive cynic to meditation and mindfulness to a huge convert, and the book is his story. Search Inside Yourself, which is Google's program, sort of an engineering mindset to rewiring the brain, was fascinating. If you're ever having a really tough day and you're being bounced around by the sort of first world problems and stresses of life, I'd encourage reading Man's Search for Meaning, which is an incredible book about Viktor Frankl, who was in a World War II concentration camp, but still managed to keep his sanity and balance throughout the horrors that he was part of. And then the final one I'd mention is Stealing Fire, which is a tremendous book about flow states and how important it is for human beings to access and tap into flow, because that's where we tap into our creativity, and that's the most joyful state of being for being a human. But we're losing that in our always-on accelerated culture, where every few moments we're being digitally tapped on the shoulder by our phones. So being able to access that is so important.
And there are lots of resources about how some of the most creative people in the world use flow states and use deliberate moments of relaxation to keep themselves creative. There's a great story about Monet and his napping. Thomas Edison had a bed in his space so that he could regularly take naps. Like, it's a thing.
Definitely.
And there's a question in that, because some people have this idea that chaos breeds creativity, or it has to hurt to get the stuff out properly. But there's another point of view there, that you can actually be more creative from a place of deliberate calm. Will you speak to that? Clearly, we know what their bias is, but...
Yeah. Well, you're correct, there is a bias. But, I mean, from my personal experience, I've had some of my best ideas in a very relaxed state of mind, and when I've been going through a sort of relatively stress-free period of my life. So one example is a late-night brainstorming session I had many years ago, about 13 years ago. I was about to go to university, and I was broke, and I wanted to come up with a way to not be broke. And I had this late-night brainstorming session, and I'd been doing a lot of meditation, I'd been doing a lot of fitness, and I was in a very relaxed state of mind. And I had this creative session and came up with this idea of what then became a website called the $1 Million Homepage. And it was a quite bizarre idea to make me $1 million selling 1 million pixels of advertising space for $1 each. And but I don't think that if I had been in a stressful, I must come up with a way to make money, it would have worked. I think that it was because I was just sort of going with the flow. It happened that way. So I do think that, in a relaxed state of mind, you get a chance for the noise to settle down in your mind, and a chance for your subconscious to surface the things that it's been working on in the background. And a good example that we can all relate to would be, we often have ideas in the shower, and things come up in the shower. And what is that? Partly it's because you're busy occupying yourself, cleaning yourself, and that action, going through that ritual, occupies perhaps your conscious mind, and your subconscious has a chance to share some of its insights that it's been working on. So definitely a big believer in that. And then obviously meditation, I think, helps to create that calm state.
I think one add-on to that, one practical tip that changed my life was most of us wake up in the mornings and the first thing we do is reach for our phone. It's something like over 50% of people. And before we're even out of bed, we're thinking about, why did our Instagram post only get 4 likes, or what's Donald Trump up to, or a million other things going on in our emails. But the simple act of keeping your phone on airplane mode until you leave the house, so you have that freedom, that space, that first half an hour of the day for your subconscious to bubble up, for you to start thinking about what's going on during your day, is completely game-changing. So I think I'd highly recommend that to everyone.
Is that why I can't get hold of you in the morning?
Strategic.
Yes, sorry. Guilty.
A practice that I use every morning is to wake up and to appreciate how soft the pillow is, appreciate the sheets, appreciate for just a few minutes, and then do a meditation. My preferred is Abraham Hicks. I watch YouTube video about setting an intention that this is a really good day. This is a really good day. It's my intention to be aware this day, to be emotionally connected this day, to be, my highest and best self this day, and to be that way unconditionally, no matter what's happening around me. Mm-hmm. So offering that as a practice, it makes so much sense.
I love that. And similar as at nighttime, if you're ever struggling to fall asleep, I think a very simple practice is to think of a few things that you are grateful for that day. Could be really, really simple. And again, it sounds a bit hokey and cliched, but it's amazing how it's, life just goes by in such a blur. We're all racing around 1,000,000 miles an hour, and just pausing to think about a few things that, you're grateful for makes a big, big difference.
That also sets you up in the morning to be in a vibrational place that is high vibe, and, as you fall asleep that way, you wake up that way. Mm-hmm. Which is lovely. And to your point, I heard that Sergey Brin came up with the original idea for Google in a dream. So it's not a matter of not listening to your conscious mind. Like he heard, he knew, but it's a matter of having the courage then to follow through with what he had imagined. And to that end, is there any last tip that you have for the audience about consciously creating their lives or consciously creating a company?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved the idea of asking questions of yourself. So I think it's so obvious that, our subconscious mind is very, very powerful, is busy, and we only experience a fraction of what our brain's working on. And if we pose questions to ourselves, whether it's before we go to sleep or whether it's in a brainstorming session, I find that a really useful technique for uncovering creative ideas. So, asking yourself a question, whatever you're working on, posing it as a question to yourself is one tip.
And trusting that you actually do know the answer. Search Inside Yourself. That's the book you mentioned.
That's a great one.
Search Inside Yourself.
And we love connecting with entrepreneurs and partnering with other companies in this space and encouraging folks. So if any of you want to connect with us, we're Acton on Twitter and Chewy, T-E-W-Y, and you can find us at Calm as well. So we think this is such an exciting time, and a rising tide lifts all boats.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Cheers.
All right.
Great.